Welcome to English for Engineers. I'm your host, Olivia Augustin. Tune in as I dig deep into all things technical English, and international business communication to bring you a lifetime of knowledge in a digestible format. Hello, friends, fellow engineers, and the occasional word nerds who are listening in. Today, we have once again a special guest at the English for Engineers podcast, and that is Professor Omar Chavéz. First of all, he's a civil engineer from Mexico, but he's not only a professor, he's also a researcher at the University of Querétaro. Welcome, Omar. I'm so happy to have you on here. So let me just shortly introduce you to my podcast listeners, or let them tell you what our relationship is and how we met. The short answer would be we are LinkedIn friends. But maybe you can fill that in a little bit and tell the listeners more about how we met and finalized and decided to record a podcast together.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the listeners. Well, in this case, uh, we we start with a seminar this week, and this is the second chance that I have to speak with you.
That is true. Omar said we already met this week, and the initial contact was a couple of weeks ago, and I felt so flattered because Omar invited me to be a guest lecturer at his university and talk to his students, and that was what we did 2 days ago, Monday night. And I had a really, really great time, 1.5 hours with a group of amazing students, really great questions. Yeah, that was our first interaction this week, and now we are recording this episode with a really, really interesting topic. In this episode today, we are going to dive into the Eco Innovation Network. Don't know if you've ever heard about this. I haven't. Only when I met Omar a couple of weeks ago, and he brought it up, and I said, "Oh, that's so interesting, you have to come on my podcast." And we are going to explore the significant role of the Commission for Environmental Cooperation, the CEC, and the Joint Public Advisory Committee, the JPAC. And Omar is talking about those things within the context of the North American Free Trade Agreement, TLCAN and NAFTA. That is a lot of letters, or as I call it, the alphabet soup. But Omar is going to enlighten us and talk about what that all means. So join us today as we unpack how these organizations shape the environmental policies and promote sustainability across North America. So the very first question, Omar, to start it off, what is the Eco Innovation Network?
Thank you, Olivia. So, as a background, I am from a state that is called Querétaro. It's close to Mexico City. It's in central Mexico, and I am from a region that we have a indigenous population, and my heritage is Chichimeca. Maybe you know Mayans, maybe you
Yeah,
know Aztecs,
yeah.
but in this region, my heritage is, as I said, Chichimeca. Our country's official name is United States of Mexico. In this case, Mexico, as you said, but here we call Mexico. And we are part of North America. North America is from Canada to Mexico. So Mexico, United States of America, and Canada, we are part of a treatment that is called TLCAN or also NAFTA. The peace agreement is was signed in place since 1994. And this agreement is between Canada, United States of America, and United States of Mexico. So in those places, after this sign, we have a lot of problems because before of that, We have an environment, a clean environment. I go to the rivers, I go to the lakes. In that years, I can go to every area and I can see the birds, I can see the turtles, I can see the diversity. And after that agreement, we had a lot of companies that are placed now in Mexico, and we have a lot of pollution. And because of that, between the three countries, they initiate this agreement that is called CEC, that is a
Mm-hmm.
commission for environmental issues. Maybe you know the blue whales or
Mm-hmm.
maybe the butterflies, the monarch butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
They arrive from Canada to Mexico and they move from this country to another country. Um, that's why we are interested in the diversity, and in this case about the biosphere, about the cleaning water, about the all that issues that we need to have for the future generations. As you. In this case, we have economic opportunities, but we have in the same way we have some problematic issues about the waste disposal and about the pollution and about the environmental issues. So we have this institution that is in the same way that the NAFTA, that the agreement between the North American countries. So that is the initial ideas.
Okay, interesting. So it was actually there was first it started with a trade agreement, then the pollution increased, and then you had to start up that eco innovation network to kind of preserve what is left and to bring back maybe even what was lost for a while. So, are there what kind of projects or initiatives are in this eco innovation network, or do you kind of foster or support collaborations between engineers and innovators?
Yes. Well, the Eco-Innovation Network starts 19. We start with this collaboration between the three countries, and in that way we start in Oklahoma City in the United States. We start with the different universities like Laval, Fraser Smith, Concordia, Sagrado Corazón from Puerto Rico, that is part
Mm-hmm.
from the United States, Oklahoma, the hub of Oklahoma, the hub
Mm-hmm.
of innovation. And here in Mexico, we have Anáhuac, that is a big university, and
Mm-hmm.
also the Universidad Autónoma de Querétaro. That is where I am in this moment. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, we need to balance the economic development and protect and restore our environment. And in that way, the Commission for Environmental Cooperation that is established under NAFTA has a key role in promoting the collaboration between these three countries. This is, yes, across the borders, because as you know, we have some borders with United States,
Mm-hmm.
and at the south we have Belize, and we have
Mm-hmm.
also Guatemala. So we talk also about these borders because, as you can see in the news, we have a lot of migration issues
Mm-hmm.
also. So in that way, the relationship between these three countries is also about these specific problems.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, in Mexico, we have a lot of diverse center around gastronomy, music, some family issues, the friendship. But this is a core. This is the core of Mexico. And as I said, the Chichimeca culture is about this protection. Maybe you know that before of the Spanish conquer, uh,
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of problems with uh, maybe from 500. years ago. Until today, we have difficulties because we know that we have slavery and all the topics about that. But before of that, we have some cultures, as I said, like the Mayan or Chichimeca or Olmec, that in that way we had some gods. Maybe you know that in the dollar money you can see the phrase "In God we trust."
I know in the US dollar note. Yeah.
Yes, and in that way we had a lot of gods, the water god. So we had different kind of gods, and almost all of these gods are from the nature, the sun, the river, the water, the
Mm-hmm.
soil. So in that way, maybe we have different cultures than today's, and in that moment we try to protect our environmental context.
So you could say because of that heritage, that also has still a big impact on Mexican people that they want to protect, or that they have a heart for protecting the nature and the environment. Yeah.
Yes, because
And
you protect your own house.
yeah, true, true. I've a follow up question because you were talking about that. So even inside Mexico, there is that very diverse heritage, diverse cultures, plus the Spanish influence from the last 500 years. But then you have to communicate with US Americans. You have to communicate with Canadians. So they have French and English. So another language comes to that. So native Mexican languages, the official Spanish, US English, Canadian English, and French. When you work together in those councils, in those networks, how is the communication going? Is there miscommunication? Is there misinterpretation? Do you have any examples that you maybe could share, or do you have an example how you can avoid those miscommunications? Because you're working on an not only interesting but on a very important topic, and you wanna make progress on these topics of protecting the environment. So how do you communicate so that you do communicate clearly?
Yes, that is a really good question. And as you said, for example, in Canada, they speak French and also English. When you go to the market, when you go to any place in Quebec, they start with, do you prefer English or do you prefer French? That is the initial,
Question.
the initial question, yes. So, and after that, we have some specific communities, as I said. For example, here in central Mexico, we have the Ñañú culture, and they speak in Ñañú, and
Mm-hmm.
also in Mérida, in Cancún, they speak in Maya in this moment. And for example, in Canada, we have some regions that they speak in another language also. So in the meetings, when we are in the meetings, all we talk in English, but we have some rules, some specific rules. For example, for JPAC, that is one of the communities that we have in the same order of CEC, we have a specific rule that says simultaneous interpretation into the three
Mm-hmm.
official languages will be provided by JPAC with in a public meetings. And as you can
Mm-hmm.
see, and as you can listen, they say simultaneous interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is not translation between the communication from someone in Mexico that is actually talking in Maya and someone in North America, in this case in Canada, for example, that is also calling in another language. So
Mm-hmm.
we have some interpretation between that language to English or to Spanish or to French. So we have a lot of issues in this context. Maybe it's not a problem, but we have some issues because our culture or traditions or environmental issues are different
Mm-hmm.
in different contexts. So in this case, as you can see, we have some rules, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe we need to interpret that what does it mean with something, because as you know, maybe some phrases of some words has not the same interpretation in other language.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That maybe that is not a problem, but it's an issue for us.
So you're not all speaking English when you meet up, but you do have interpreters
Yes,
who translate for you. Yeah. That is a very respectful way because then everyone can speak in their mother language, in their language of their heart. And then you have professionals who synchronize the language systems in between. That's excellent. That's excellent. And I guess when you have pauses and you meet your colleagues from other countries and you have a cup of coffee together, I guess then it's when you all speak English together. Yeah.
yes, yes. And about that, also we have another rule. In this case, it's about the when you have a technical report, for example, and JPACs. In this case, this is the rule. JPACs written advice to council will be made
Mm-hmm.
available to the public in the three official languages of the Commission. Other documents may be made available in the same manner as appropriate. So we
Mm-hmm.
need to work at the same time in the three languages in order to communicate as easy as possible in these three languages that we have in the North America
Mm-hmm.
part of the continent. But we have also the issue because of the indigenous people.
Yeah.
For example, here in Mexico, some Mayans, some population, don't speak
Mm-hmm.
Spanish. So,
Mm-hmm.
in order to communicate with, for example, in the part of Yucatan, that is one of the states of Mexico, they
Yeah.
speak only in Maya. And for
Mm-hmm.
example, I am a civil engineer, so in that way, when we work together with some civil engineers in that area of the Mayans, we need to collaborate in the specific words. For example, as you know, when we have a pavement, we have a road, we have a grade and a subgrade, something like that. For instance, in Mayan, is called Saskaf or
Mm-hmm.
Cancaf. So we need to elaborate all the planning in that order, in the same order, because the workers only knows the Mayan language or the Mayan expressions. So we need to
Interesting.
collaborate with those communities.
Interesting. I do love old dialects and old languages, and I think it's great that all those indigenous languages are preserved as well. Not only butterflies and other animals, but the language is preserved as well. That is excellent. That is excellent. So how many official Mayan languages are there? Is it one Mayan language, or is there even a difference in, I don't know, North Mayan and South Mayan?
Yes, there are different kind of Mayans, but we have the general Mayan.
Okay.
Maybe this is not the actual name, but in different contexts, maybe they have different specifications. So in that way, we need to connect with the traditional, with the region, with the communities. But that
Mm-hmm.
is only an example because here in central Mexico we have also the same problem. So maybe not, it's not a problem. Maybe it's that wrong word. Yes, yes.
It's a
Maybe
challenge, not
maybe
a
we
problem.
yes, maybe we have in this area, for example, we had the Ñañú, and also as I said, in United States of America, we have different cultures also, and in Canada we have different cultures also. So in that way, we need to communicate. We have a lot of problems. In these cases, this is a problem. This is a difficult in order to communicate the ideas or to communicate in this case, for example, the problem for a civil engineer or electrical engineer is too difficult because the support needs to be in the same order. So some places in different parts of the continent, we have engineers that are prepared in the Spanish or in English or in French, and they have the knowledge of the traditional, the culture, and all about these topics in order to improve the quality of life in those regions.
Yeah. And if
That
you
is the
talk to
way.
people in those regions, you can reach them better if you speak their mother language and not come with the overarching Spanish. Yeah. I've
Yes.
I've one question before we move on to my next official question. I have an in-between question. So the three main languages, English, Spanish, French, in a commission, but you also include native Mexican languages. So my question is, do you know if there are also indigenous Canadian languages are involved, indigenous US American languages? Or
Yes.
are the Mexicans the only ones who include indigenous languages?
No, we have from the three countries. We have this kind of communication. We have specific cultures. For example, in the north part of Mexico, of Mexico here, uh, we have a big area between Sonora, Sinaloa, Chihuahua, and Texas, California, Nuevo Mexico. In those places are considered the same region
Mm-hmm.
because of the traditional cultures and all the environment issues.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, for example, you know maybe the Colorado Canyon. The Colorado Canyon is from Arizona, Nuevo Mexico, Oklahoma to Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and also it moves to across the borders to Chihuahua. So in that area, we have specific cultures. We separate, but the borders we have this line, this cross border, but
Mm-hmm.
we have the same specific culture. So in United States and in Mexico, we have the same culture, but in this case, this border doesn't make easy in order to control the movement between those.
Yeah.
In this case, it's not about migration. It's because of the same culture are in the same place and know about the borders.
Mm-hmm.
Because in some places we have a difficult area, we have a relief that is considered maybe it's not easy to construct a wall,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so they can move between Mexico and United States by those in
So
order to
yeah, sometimes
collaborate, in order to
borders
participate, in order
just
to sorry,
no, go on, go on. I interrupted you.
no, sorry, because they move from maybe 1,000 years ago until today
Mm.
in the same
Yeah,
line, in the
so
same way. Yes,
sometimes a border is just a line on a piece of paper. But
yes.
the food and culture and how people behave and how they think, it still stays the same. Yeah. My second question, because I know you want to talk about that as well. The next question I have is about so you answered us now what is the Eco Innovation Network, but you mentioned something else, the CEC, the Commission for Environmental Cooperation. Can you tell us a little bit what that is and about the history of that thing of the CEC?
Yes, the CDC was born almost at the same time as the NAFTA agreement, that is for commerce and for any other topics. Maybe the main topic is about the commerce and all about the topics and the agreements between these three. In the CSC, we have, in this case, from my perspective, we have a different knowledge. In this case, we have the community knowledge, that is from the indigenous people. We have experts. We have organizations that are involved in the same way. For example, we have the monarch butterfly community, that is, in this case, about the perspective of to know. the movement, the migration, about the butterfly monarch. And also, for example, we have some environmental work because maybe if you put in the links, you can find a different information. You can find some planning, some initiatives, some research. Yeah, and it's in this case is about open access. You can download in any moment if you want to know what is the water quality in different contexts, what is the biosphere in these different places. You can find some interesting words, in this case, interesting topics about the traditions, about the culture, about the environment. And we need to connect that in order to improve this information because, as you know, we need to have information in order to take uh, some ideas about what is the next step. We have different problems. So in this case, we have different information with different data, and with that data, we need to analyze that and we need to discuss, and after that, we need to take action. That is the way. In this case, we have the opportunity to know the CEC. CEC is in Montreal. The headquarters are in Montreal, and we have also in Mexico and in United States of America, but the headquarters are in Montreal.
You observe, for example, the migration of the monarch butterfly of certain whales, but you mentioned something that you also observe the migration of humans. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, the migration
Interesting.
and the commerce, because as you can see, for example, you can move from South America, South America, from Belize to and Guatemala to maybe Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, and they move to United States and also to Canada. We have in this moment, we have also here in Mexico a lot of migrants that are working in this moment. Maybe with the idea to move, for instance, to United States of America, but we have also a migration here in Mexico
Mm-hmm.
because we have more or less stability. We have different relations between the countries, and we have the possibility to, for example, here in Querétaro, we have a lot of population. Our population in this moment are growing since 2000 until today 50 times. And that is why we have stability. We have different companies. We have, as I said, culture. We have traditions. Maybe we have some problems because of the social issues or because of the healthy issues. We have different component because we have the opportunity to, in this moment, to have some companies from North Korea, no, sorry, from South Korea. We have companies from, sorry. We have companies from Canada, from United States of America. We have companies from China. We have companies from all over the world.
I have a question. A bit back to environmental. So we do know that humans have a big impact on the environment and not a good one. So our actions influence, for example, migration patterns of animals. But what I find interesting is how do human migration patterns, how humans move around. Do you have any example for a specific impact that has on the environment? Does it matter that much where we live and where we pollute the earth?
Yes, in that way we have a different context. We have pollution, we have stress to because
Mm-hmm.
we don't have enough water for all the communities. We don't have enough quality of the water for the different population because we have, for example, we have the main area, the urban area, and we have also some communities around it. So to establish a pipeline of water with clean water, we have some problems. And in that way, for example, we have the opportunity to work in those communities with another project that we are working on. Is called Aqua Clara. Aqua Clara, with Aqua Clara, in those communities, we can put some filtration systems in order to improve the quality because we have a lot of mining communities, and those mining communities have the problem with, for example, heavy metals, in this case from for arsenic, cadmium, and different kind of heavy metals. So in that way, we take the opportunity to promote the quality of the water because we have also healthy issues with the children mainly. So in that way, we have been working with Michigan State University and
Mm-hmm.
also with the Aqua Clara organization.
It's really interesting because at least when I started studying civil engineering, when I started that path, I never thought how big our area is. And now talking with you, I'm reminded of that again, that civil engineering, it's not just building streets and water pipes, it's and bridges, and it's so much more. It's has such a big impact, and you can go into so many directions when you're working in that field. So I think that's why it's one of my favorite fields.
That's why
Yeah.
we are civil engineers, Olivia.
Yes, exactly. My next question is, so with all those issues that are coming together, it's flora and fauna and people, those three things. You told me that there's the Joint Public Advisory Committee, because I can imagine that with all those decisions to make, you have to take into account a lot of opinions and you take in a lot of different advice. So what's the Joint Public Advisory Committee's role in the CEC? How do they advise, influence the CEC?
Yes, that is an excellent question also. In that way, we have the opportunity to understand the context, the specific context from the three countries, but also from different places in the country. And in that way, the meetings are with three persons from the different countries. So in this case, we have nine people. They have the opportunity to understand different contexts from the three countries because of the different opinions. So JPAC is considered as a joint. It is the meaning as a joint public advisory committee.
Mm-hmm.
So is part of the North America agreement. Also, each year we need to connect the ideas. We need to connect this collaboration in order to improve the quality of life from the different contexts. So that is the main idea from.
So the Joint Public Advisory Committee actually stands up for the interest of what's called the little man in the background, for like small groups that have an interest but do not have their own representative. So the Joint Public Advisory Committee represents all the interests of relatively small groups, so that
Yes,
they're not forgotten, like indigenous groups, vulnerable groups, the interests of small areas, and so on.
yes. See, for example, in this moment we have a representative from the south part of Mexico, the central part of Mexico, and the from the north part of Mexico because we have different contexts, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the same in for the different countries.
We were talking a lot about the Eco Innovation Network and also about the role the Joint Public Advisory Committee has. We were briefly talking about the NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And my question is now, with all those institutions and all the interests of the different groups, how does that influence the environmental engineering practice on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, That is because the main idea of the Eco Innovation Network is because of the is the innovation. As you can see, maybe I can rephrase the idea, but in this case, for example, we initiate with some interesting topics. For example, the plastic pollution in different places. We have also the waste disposal from the animals, or for example, in this case, from elephants and from different kind of animals in the zoos. As you know, in different places we have different zoos. So after that, we have waste disposal. In the same way with the plastic pollution, we initiate the collaboration to develop um, uh, waste disposal. In this case, plastic. Instead of plastic, we have, for example, we can use some fibers from different mushrooms in order to have a cup of coffee, for example. And after that, we have also some specific projects. For example, is about the contamination that we have in our food because of the different kind of chemical contamination that we need to mitigate the increment of different kind of virus or bacteria in different landfills. So in that way, for example, talking about one specific project is about to have a robot that can move around the different agricultural contexts with, for example, with the UV waves in order to mitigate the component, in this case from the virus that can attack to those specific agricultural contexts. For example, for strawberries, for potatoes, or from different kind of corns. So as you can see, and you can find this kind of information in the CEC, the initial context of the eco-innovation is about new ideas from different contexts, but in this case from the universities in order to support this kind of projects. And also,
Yeah.
these projects are made from different universities. Maybe it's not in the same context. Maybe, for example, one of the projects was made from New York University. Maybe was made from Arizona University, and maybe was made from different universities. We have different contexts, but we are in the same idea in order to improve the quality of the projects and in order to facilitate the interchange between the company, maybe between the university to the different contexts, or maybe with the farmers to different contexts. Because, for example, when we have the meetings, we have also the opportunity to connect between the companies and the projects, between the companies and the universities. So, as you can see, we have the connection between the three facilities.
Institution.
Institution, yes, but maybe institution because we have the guys that are developing that kind of projects from different institutions, and we have also the companies, and we have also the universities. And in this context, the CEC supports this kind of projects also.
Yeah, interesting. So what? I had a thought and I forgot it. But that happens more often than I would like it to happen. You just you just mentioned extra information that people can look up, and of course we're going to put some links into the podcast description so people can learn more about the Eco Innovation Network, and maybe other universities want to get involved as well. One regarding getting involved into the Eco Innovation Network as well, I have a question. So right now it's only North America. It's Mexico, the US, and Canada. And yes, Mexico is North America, for those who were not that good at geography. Do you plan on working together with more countries in the future? Do you plan to expand that eco-innovation network to Central America and South America? Do you plan to expand it, or do you think it's better to keep it relatively small, to be
Before
able to be more,
before we
to be agile?
yes, before we start the Eco Innovation Network in 2019, we have different meetings. In that, in the same idea, we have different opportunities because, for example, in Laval University, they have an international network that compiles maybe Europe, Asia, and some parts of Africa. So,
Mm-hmm.
as an institution, for example, my university here in Querétaro, we have different networks in that we are working on. So, in this case, for the specific problem that we have around the agreement between Mexico, Canada, and US, we develop this specific network, but we have also specific networks for another issues. We have collaboration, a specific collaboration with the Michigan State University, but also with Africa, for example, because the water pollution that we involve in this moment, we have also in South America and we have also in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Is the most common problem that we have in those countries. So in that way, we
Yeah.
have different networks in order to work together to improve some specific project.
And to approach every problem, the local problems, in the perfect way for that location, I guess. Isn't it cool that civil engineering is so much more than streets and tunnels and bridges? There's so much to civil engineering. Omar, thank you so very much. That was so interesting, and I actually can't wait to put that episode together and publish it. For those who want to learn more, we're going to put resources in the podcast description, definitely links to the CEC and to the JPAC websites. Maybe, Omar, you could provide us with articles or publications on the NAFTA's environmental impacts, or maybe we can even find some case studies to put a link into the description for people to read up. And what I want the listeners to encourage to is explore the resources that we provide in the description. And maybe you can think about how you as a civil engineer at home could contribute to a bit more sustainable practices in your own engineering work.
Yes.
That was it, Omar, I guess. That were my thoughts. Thank you so much for your time. That was it, dear listeners. This was English for Engineers. I'm your host, Olivia Augustin. Talk to you soon.